Well, as the monsoon session of Parliament gets underway this week, it's very clear that the Congress party and other opposition parties have decided to make farmer distress one of the key issues on which they're going to take on the government. They are pressing for a discussion as well. And Rahul Gandhi was in Rajasthan today, where he addressed a huge rally of farmers, saying that the government wasn't doing enough to address their concerns.
By September this year, the Congress could have Rahul Gandhi as the new party president. Top party sources told NDTV today that Rahul, currently the party number 2, is likely to take over from his mother Sonia Gandhi in organizational elections that begin next month.
We all want Rahul ji to take over. We have been requesting him, urging him for a long time that he should take over. But ultimately the decision has to be left to the family. They have to decide.
Sonia Gandhi will, however, continue to head the Congress parliamentary party and ensure that the external dealings with allies and other opposition parties continues, especially flow strategy in Parliament.
And amid reports of Rahul's possible coronation, he headed straight from Parliament to Banswara in South Rajasthan, where, addressing a farmers' Akrosh rally organized by the Congress, he launched a scathing attack on the Modi government.
पार्लियामेंट में आज हमें 1 मिनट आपके बारे में नहीं बोलने दिया गया। जीएसटी के लिए पार्लियामेंट को 12 बजे रात खोला जा सकता है, मगर किसान के मुद्दे के लिए पार्लियामेंट में 1 मिनट बात नहीं हो सकती।
Clearly, the Congress is making farmers' distress a key plank of its revival campaign for 2019. Banswara is among the poorer tribal districts in Rajasthan, and holding a rally here is not just about pushing farmers' issues onto the political agenda. It's also a way to reach out to the tribal vote bank. In the last election, tribal voters here, once a Congress stronghold, had shifted to the BJP. In Banswara, with cameraman Shamshu Zoha, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Well, joining us on the program tonight from the Congress party is Pawan Khera. We have Jay Panda, Lok Sabha MP of the BJD, joining us tonight. Shubhrastra of the India Foundation is with us, and Avik Saha, member of the Swaraj Abhiyan, also joining us here in the studio this evening. Jay, let me ask you first, as a member of Parliament, do you think that this is an issue on which actually there needs to be perhaps the most urgent and immediate discussion on farmer distress? We've seen very heart-rending pictures of children of farmers who've committed suicide at Jantar Mantar protesting, saying that, look, pay attention, to the issues that farmers face. Is this something that legislators across the board need to take much more seriously?
Oh, absolutely. I think considering that more than 50% of the country's population is still dependent on livelihood from farms in some way or another, any time there is this kind of distress, it must be taken seriously by all politicians and of course at our national legislature. Just to point out, I think you've already seen there have been a spate of reactions from across the country. Some states have gone into loan waivers, and as far as we are concerned from Odisha, we have also taken up the issue of farmers from our region who have been facing difficulties in Parliament, and we have written to the government. So yes, indeed this is urgent, but I want to make one other point. Most of the solutions being proposed, whether loan waivers or MSP enhancement, these are sort of urgent, and we can discuss the moral hazard of doing it or not doing it. But what is also required are fundamental long-term reforms which will yield a solution for permanently, not just for every 2 or 3 years when there's a crisis.
Well, I do want to look at some of the issues that you raised, Jay, on whether solutions, for instance, like farm loan waivers make an impact in the short term and the long term. But Shubhrastra, on a political point, do you believe that this is an issue actually that the government is on the back foot that the agrarian crisis, the agrarian distress is something that is very real, and that this is one issue that the opposition does have that it can highlight against the government?
Nidhi, before one begins to discuss whether it is a political issue on which the government is at the back foot, I would like to present certain data from the ministry. The Ministry of Agriculture says that between 2014 and 2017, 73707 number of farmers have benefited from procurement, and this is against the figure in 2011 and 14. This is 172% higher than the 2011-2014 figures. So clearly there is no question of the government being on the back foot. But I agree with Mr. Panda when he says that there is a concerted effort needed on part of collective political representation to discuss this issue. Because let's see what the drought management measures this government took. Norms for assistance for all categories have been increased by 1.5 times. The threshold for eligibility for assistance due to crop loss has been lowered from 33% to 50%. The financial assistance paid to the farmers in the event of death has been increased to rupees 4 lakh from rupees 1.5 lakh. To execute relief assistance to the affected persons, for the first time UTDRF has been created with an allocation of rupees 50 crore. Allocation of funds to states under SDRF has increased by 82% during 2014-17 as compared to 11-14. Assistance to fund under NDRF has been seen an increase of 215%.
But why are farmers committing suicide in large numbers? I'm just giving you, for example, data from Madhya Pradesh. 2015, this is NCRB data, the National Crime Records Bureau. In 2015, 581 farmers committed suicide in Madhya Pradesh. From February 2016 to February 2017, that number was 1,982 in Madhya Pradesh alone. If all is not well but getting better, I think what should disturb us is the alarming rise in the number of farmer suicides, maybe not across the country but certainly in certain regions and certain areas.
Nidhi, let's not get into numbers at all. Even if one farmer commits a suicide in India, it's a shame because we are an agricultural economy at the end of the day, prima facie. And I don't think the government is completely oblivious to this reality and saying, oh well, we are winning the number game. Nobody is saying that. There have been concerted efforts, and the kind of figures that I read right now shows a sense of concertedness on part of the government to address this issue, the issue of farmers in distress. The question is, are we going to play a political blame game, or are we really going to get down on the table to address long-term issues? Because clearly loan waivers are not a part of, loan waivers are not going to do benefits. I'm saying this despite the fact that UP government waived off the loans, and governments after governments can keep waiving off the loans, but then you need to go back to what the RBI says. You need to go back to what the World Bank report says. You need to go back to all the research institutions in the country are saying about loan waivers. So clearly a long-term solution is needed.
That is an important point. That is an important point that you've made. Avik Saha, from what Subhrastra is saying though, is that yes, we have a problem. You clearly have a problem, and she's saying herself that loan waivers are not the answer. We have to take a step back and look at that. But her argument is that whatever can be done is being done, and that's what needs to be constructively done by all parties coming together on the issue of agrarian distress. What would you say?
The first thing that should be done is that the manifesto promise of 50% over cost
should be fulfilled.
If you do that and you clean the slate of loans, which have, by the way, spiraled up because the farmers don't get the prices, you don't need to do anything for the farmers. That's the only thing that they want. Give us a one-time reprieve, clean our slate, and give us proper prices.
So you think there's a hypocrisy in the government's argument today when it talks about agrarian distress in the country and what it's doing for farmers?
You made a promise. You haven't fulfilled it. You made another promise, which now take till 2022 to fulfill. So what you're doing is, this is a Ponzi scheme. Promise after promise after promise. And if someone questions you in between, throw numbers. Show that you're working. Of course you are. There are so many people engaged in government. Some work is happening. But on drought, let me tell you, for 2 years I've been tracking it. I've been doing yatras. Nothing is happening on the ground. Now drought is a funny thing. The central government doesn't really have a role because drought happens in a state. So it has to release funds. Just let me give you an example. Tamil Nadu faced a drought in December 2016. They asked for 40,000 crores. The central grant was 1,400 crores. So you can understand how much money is required, how much money is being paid. On ground, nothing is happening. Demands that are coming up now are actually for fulfillment. These are not claims. These are not imaginary farmers' demands. farmers are being, there's a genocide.
When you're talking about the money that's claimed, and Pawan, ironically, we're having this discussion on a day when MLAs in Tamil Nadu have got a 100% salary hike, and you have debt-hit farmers from Tamil Nadu who've been protesting at Jantar Mantar for what, I think, maybe 90, 100 days now. And that's the irony, you know, legislators on one hand, and maybe they do deserve a salary hike, but just look at what it's weighed against at this point. Shubrata is saying, don't politicize the issue, give constructive suggestions. But it seems to have become very much a political issue in light of Rahul Gandhi's rally today.
Why shouldn't such issues be politicized? In fact, political parties need to insist on politicizing these issues so that we can flag them appropriately and draw the attention of people away from silly debates on beef and what to wear and what to eat and so on and so forth. This government, as Mr. Avik pointed out, had promised cost plus MSP plus 50%. That they are not doing. Also, you know, I find the BJP government very uncomfortable dealing with farmers' issues. This is not an issue through which they can polarize the society. They are very uncomfortable. They can't handle this issue at all. They can't address it at all. Now, this government, particularly Nidhi, has ensured to keep the food prices in check. The farmer becomes the tool to keep inflation in check. Now, that's not done. From seed to sale, the onus lies on the farmer. The state, the market, nobody comes to his rescue. This has to change. Mr. Jay Panda was right about short term and also about long term. But short term, let them first implement the short term. The Swaminathan Commission report, the MSP. Why can't they do this first? And then let's have a discussion as political parties about what should be the long term measures. Surely it's not a new problem. The NCRB has changed the definition of farmer suicide to show the numbers have come down. What is this happening?